You get an idea, a spark. Maybe it's finally writing that book, stepping onto the stage, or becoming the face of your business instead of hiding behind it. And for about 4.8 seconds, you feel excited. Then your brain takes over. Who do you think you are? You've never done this before. What will people think? And just like that, the inspiration gets buried under a pile of reasons why you can't, shouldn't, or aren't ready. Here's what actually happens. Your brain is doing exactly what it was designed to do. It's keeping you safe. But safe and successful, those are two very different things. So what if the path to confidence isn't waiting until you feel ready? What if confidence is something you build on the other side of doing the thing that scares you? I'm Amber De La Garza, and you're listening to the Small Business Straight Talk podcast. If you're a successful, busy, small business owner who wants the straight talk on self-leadership, personal productivity, financial clarity, operational efficiency, team leadership, and business strategy to maximize profits, reduce stress, and make time for what matters most, then you're in the right place, and I'm so glad you've joined me. Today is episode 423, The Science of Success, Why Confidence Comes After Action with Sara Connell. I am really looking forward to this episode because Sara brought it. What an incredible communicator with thoughtful examples and stories and real science-based advice. Sara is a 5-time best-selling author and the founder of Thought Leader Academy, where she helps coaches, experts, and entrepreneurs scale their impact and create 6 to 7 figures by becoming best-selling authors and in-demand TEDx speakers. She has been featured on Oprah, New York Times, Good Morning America, Today, Forbes, Entrepreneur, and TEDx. Sara is going to walk us through why our brains are actually wired against success. She shares practical tools to rewire your thinking, and she will unpack why confidence is the result of action, not a starting point. And now, let's meet our guest and get to the straight talk. Welcome, Sara, to the show. Thank you so much for being here today.
I'm thrilled. I'm excited for our conversation.
Yes. So we're going to get into something I actually have not had on the podcast yet. And that says a lot since I've been podcasting since 2017. But I was very intrigued when I got your information that you wanted to talk about the science of success. So I'm going to let you just kind of jump off from there. But can you just share with us a little bit about what we didn't hear in your official bio? And, why is this interesting to you? Why are we get to talk about this today?
Well, I will use the word obsessed. I'm definitely obsessed. I've been coaching for 20 years. I've been specifically coaching thought leaders for the last 10 years to help mission-driven women write best-selling books, do paid speaking, TEDx talks, do everything under that realm and using our voice, our methodology, our genius, and thought leadership to scale our businesses, right? So that's what I've been doing these last very specifically 10 years and loving and still love. And over the last 18 months, I've been, just to let everyone know, I've been a neuroscience-based coach this whole time because while, yes, you don't need to bring in neuroscience to write a book or give a great talk, the identity work that we often need to do as women, this is what's going to get into the science of success. It's one thing to say, I'm going to, do a book or get on a stage or speak, go in that red carpet circle on TEDx and do my thing. But then we can have a lot of subconscious stuff around that, a lot of fears of visibility or fears of, judgment or fear. I mean, there's a lot to it. And so we've always embedded in our work, my team and I have always embedded in the work, what is the real rewiring that we get to do on an identity level, on a neurological level to allow ourselves to step into whatever the next level, best-selling author, speaker, seven-figure CEO, whatever it is, that has always been woven in throughout this time. But in the last 18 months, I think particularly with the rapid increase and rampant use of artificial intelligence, and this sort of feels like we're in this arms race. I feel like it's very much like the Russian-US, space race energy around this. It's like, we're going to build, and it's the dudes, I'm just going to say it. It's mostly the bros who are like, we're going to build the first sentient machines and then they'll take over the world. I'm like, what end game are we even playing for here? It's not one I like. And so I've become like really felt called to deep dive into developing human intelligence, our own creativity, our own genius, going to that aspect of ourselves before, not instead of defaulting to automations and machines and artificial, but first making sure we're getting our, what I call downloads, directly from our own genius, from source, itself, and then deciding what we want to do with it and the best way to expedite bringing that to the world. And what are we going to do to promote human flourishing? Because I don't feel that that is the end game that's being promoted by a lot of the people in the positions of power around this time in history. That's that's just like a sort of laying the groundwork for, why this has felt kind of so much at the forefront. And I think of it as the future of thought leadership. And when I say thought leadership, it starts with leading our own thoughts and then helping to inspire others, to be led by their highest thoughts and our own movements, right? I think that women, especially women like all of you listening, we get to be movement leaders at this time. That's what the world needs right now. So to wrap that to science of success, our brains are actually not wired for success. That's sort of a weird thing to think about. It's like,
I know, as you say that, you're like, I bet everyone's like nodding like, okay, so that's why this feels the way it feels. So challenging.
Our brains are wired for safety.
Mm-hmm.
That's what they're wired for. Survival, safety, like, let's not do anything new. Let's not stand out. That's why, I don't know if anyone listening has had the experience. I certainly had of, you get a great idea. You get one of those downloads. And then it's terrifying to action it. It's like, well, that's not my lane, or I've never done that before, or what will people think, or, how is that going to make money, or I'm not good enough. We come up with this, like we are besieged in 4.8 seconds is the statistic, besieged with all the reasons we can't be, do, or have it.
Yeah. And that really stifles what you're saying is innovation. It stifles people's voice and owning it.
Right.
And unfortunately, so much is not being shared with the world because we say no to ourselves first.
Totally.
So
what we take ourselves out.
Right. Yeah. So what are some of the messaging that you hear? I know you just shared a few of them, but what is that internal messaging, and where do you think it comes from that understanding it helps move through it?
Completely. Because if anyone's ever heard of the 3 A's of change, right? There's awareness, which is what we're talking now. Some of us are very aware of like these negative programs and messaging and limiting ideas. And then acceptance. I think that's a piece that gets overlooked a lot. Like, what if I could have compassion, which is why we're going to talk about what are the core causes of this confidence gap, this fear of success. And when people would say fear of success, I was like, what is that? I don't fear. I want success. But we don't really, because again, we're wired to have safety. And then the final A is a new action, right? So today you and I, and thank you so much for having the conversation, because we can do those 3 A's today. We can kind of get more. So, what are the reasons? There's a lot. Yeah. There is no surprise that we are afraid of acting on our greatest inspirations and visions and ideas. Part of it is simply, this has been well researched, especially for women, there is a confidence gap. And confidence, we think, is the thing that when I feel confident, I'll go take action. And we're being asked to feel very unconfident, it's not a word, but lack of confidence, and act anyway. And that's a really hard ask. It's not, it's a hard ask. It's like asking someone to go run an Ironman, right? It's not an easy ask. And that's because of centuries of conditioning where women in particular were not valued, like things like not having a right to vote, not having, in 1974, a woman had to have a man co-sign a credit card, a house loan, a car. I mean, that is not I don't know how old everyone is listening, but I was born just after that. So I mean, like I'm right in that, like that window. And it's like, oh my God, like
Yeah.
that is shocking to me. We think of it, oh, maybe in the last centuries, or something, but no, this is not that long ago. So we have this whole systemic, cultural message of not good enough, your voice doesn't matter, you have no power, you don't have a right to say anything. There's all that stuff that's in there just collectively. And then a lot of us have had family or personal trauma when we have tried to do big things, or we did put ourselves out there, we did take a risk, or we did something new and more visible. And, we got slammed in some way. Someone was jealous or didn't work in the way that we wanted. It didn't sell.
Right.
That's a trauma. Like business
Rejection.
PTSD is a real thing. Rejection, judgment. So it's not it's not, oh, where does this come from? It comes from really
Everywhere.
legitimate places, right? But that doesn't mean it has to stop us, because as soon as we are aware, we have compassion. Like, oh, wait, this isn't just me. This is centuries. This is
Mhm.
ancestral. It's my own stuff from earlier in life, and vicarious trauma, watching other people and then
Mhm.
going, ooh, like they were visible and I didn't like how that worked out for them. And I don't want to put myself, it's like watching someone have a really bad breakup. It's like, yeah, I think I might just do my own thing right now. I don't
Yeah.
want, so it's all those reasons. And as soon as we can have compassion and awareness, we can make a different change. Because I don't know, for anyone, a way I like to think about it is, if I'm scared to take action on something new, I think about me at the end of my life, which I hope is a very long time from now. And what what am I going to feel about it at that point? And that version of me, if I talk to I always say, let's pretend our 90-year-old self is like healthy mind, healthy body, has just lived this amazing life. I very much have never heard, when I've consulted that part of myself, that voice say, what I want you to do is play really small,
Mm.
stay totally under the radar. Do not put yourself out. Never has my 90-year-old self given that
Yes.
guidance, nor any client that I've done that work with, right? It's never what that she's like, leave it on the field, girl. Play with
Yeah.
everything you've got. Go for it. Because at that point, you're like, if I'm exiting, I don't want to, oh, I'm so glad I never made anyone uncomfortable. And that's what I
Mhm.
can say about my life. No way.
Yeah, that's not a wish we have for our younger selves by any means. I'm not even 90 and I already think
Right.
those things in some ways of, gosh, what scared me before is like a normal to me now. Like I think about that all the time, is what my normal day and how I run my business. I couldn't my when I started almost 15 years ago, couldn't have even imagined what now I just normalize as like, this is just how we roll. This is
Right.
how the business is. This is my lifestyle. So that really excites me for like what's next. I don't know. I don't have that much clarity to see, but that really excites me for,
Mm,
just continuing to grow. You mentioned that as like we're always, evolving. It made me think about how we're always putting ourselves in new arenas. And when I
yeah.
asked you the question of like, well, what can cause this chatter, this internal voice? Well, every new level, something either you're like, I thought I handled that. And then you're
Right.
like, dang it, it's back. And then you're like,
Yes, I got it.
oh, that wasn't my trigger. Something new came up because something
Yeah.
new, some new arena felt unsafe, right?
Yeah.
I remember in my early 20s when I first became aware. So I think everyone's on their own journey.
Mhm.
Everyone listening is going to be at a different path. And so I just always like to speak to that part of me. Is I remember when it was the most personal development, like growth moment, when I
Mm,
realized my brain could lie to me. Right up to
mm,
this time, mid 20s, I
right.
just thought,
Yeah.
if the chatter's chattering, like it's truth, like it's finding
Mhm.
evidence that it's true. I never separated myself enough from the chatter to be the observer of the chatter, right? And so when
Mm,
you're saying awareness, that was my first step, is realizing my brain can lie to me. So
yeah.
anyone here listening, your brain could be lying to you too. And
Yes.
so how do we move forward to the next A after we realize,
Right.
okay, like not everything I think is absolutely true.
It's so good. And I want to acknowledge, Amber, you just gave an action step. We're kind of jumping in our A's, but you, by reflecting on things that your younger self would have thought were absolutely either impossible, would be too hard, too scary, and realizing like you eat that for lunch now on a Tuesday. You're like the
Yes.
thing that would have been the year goal and taken a whole year. You're like, it's called Wednesday in my business now. Like, don't even think. I
Yeah.
remember the first time I did a live like video on social media, I sweated through my clothes. I was terrified. I was like, what was I terrified of? No one was even watching anyway. It's like, what was I was like pushing record. I remember I was a mess. And now it's like, I wouldn't think if someone just phoned up randomly and said, hey, could you jump on Facebook and teach something for Emily like you? I'm sure you'd, oh my gosh, what an honor. Thank you. And it would be like this much thought goes into just meaning there would be zero inner process
Yes.
around just like, oh yes, I'd love to be of service and I'd love to share. Boom. And yet, oh my God, like the inner work so I love you already gave us such such a beautiful practice to make a list even of all the things you once thought you'd never be able to do that you now do with aplomb. You don't even think about them with mastery.
And part of that is too, just like sitting in gratitude, right? So when you normalize something and it becomes your normal, you can get kind of complacent. And so I just like to stay gratitude of like, look, this is where we've come in the last 10, 15 years. What's next? Like, I don't have to actually have an answer to keep asking that question.
Right.
But I think, I mean, I know we're all jumping around, but one of the things that I observed is that I needed to get comfortable being uncomfortable. And that meant growth. That meant, oh, if I've been in rooms where I'm like, yeah, but got that, good, like whatever, not thinking twice about the discovery call, the this, the that, the speaking. And then your hands start sweating and you're like, ooh, actually, this is an exciting feeling when I used to want to avoid that feeling, right? Is like,
Isn't
can you
that
change
fabulous?
your thinking about it so that you are saying, I know what's on the other side of this. Like, I won't have the clammy hands. I won't be nervous. But you got to do the paces. Like, you got to put yourself in those situations.
The way out is through. And so if we think about these A's, first we become aware like you did and I did, and we're talking about many of you listening, it's like, oh yeah, I've got these thoughts and they're not necessarily true. That's all they are. They're thoughts. And we can see now with compassion, the second A of acceptance, oh, they didn't even come from me. Most of these came from collective stuff, the past, whatever. Okay, cool. And then what's the new action? And your new action was, in that case, you reframed what the clammy hands meant. Isn't that so cool? This is neuroplasticity. We can reframe this. We can reprogram our brains. This is how we start to program our brains for success. We start to recognize sweaty palms and racing hard and shallow breathing instead of something's wrong, I'm going to die, which is how our amygdala and our brain is going to like, oh, what's happening? It's saying, ooh, I'm growing. Oh, this is so cool. I'm getting reps in because the more reps we do of anything, this is what everyone from Freud to Marissa Peer at Mind Valley and all these people talk about, making the unfamiliar familiar. That's the way to get our brain on board. Subconsciously, we get everybody lined up for a yes to growth. You've just reframed, oh, I'm excited. And this is a funny trick, but just a simple thing we can all do in that new action, that third A, is just saying, I get to, instead of I'm afraid to, I have to. So even we can all feel it. Like if we say, oh, I have to go give this talk, like we can just feel the physiology, the somatic response of that is sort of, I don't know, for me, it's like I hunch. And if anyone listening can do this with us, it's like kind of heavy and contracted. And then it's like, oh, I get to go give this talk. Then suddenly I literally, my body moves in a different way in response to that. Our brain is firing in a different way and realizing, oh, like everything good happens when the sweaty palms happen.
Yes.
Like that's such a great somatic cue that you have. So that's how we start the rewiring. And then I think really building the new identity. This is such a weird thing, but even like the CIA does this. If someone has to go, it's like you start to build, it's like, what does the version of me that loves to go give talks, that loves to make sales calls, that loves like whatever the thing is that's feeling really scary to us, loves to sit down and write. What does that version of me, like what is she, what's her deal? It's kind of like that. I just like, I interview that version. And I went through when I was making the jump from mid 6 figures to 7, and multi 7 figures in my business, I just realized I had so much baggage around, you can't do that. Other people can, that's impossible, all this junk. And so I was like, what does the 7-figure CEO do today? I just started asking that question.
Mm.
Like I didn't have all the answers. I just asked that new question. And suddenly I was like, well, she doesn't wear that. I just went through my closet. I just donated everything that did not align with 7-figure CEO. And then, oh, well, she would be in this room, like you said, to be in this mastermind because that's for 7-figure people. So when joined that master, I wasn't yet. I felt like a complete idiot and a total imposter. But that was exactly where I needed to be. Like I put myself now where people are 7 steps ahead of me at the goal that I have. Like that's another new action in the third A. And we then get, you're because you're in the room. You're in the room with people metaphorically, literally, virtually, whatever it is. And it normalizes the new identity and the new behavior.
Yeah. When we talk about confidence and safety, right? So you were talking about how this is like a safety, like how we're wired for safety. Everyone's on a spectrum of like their risk adverse, like how risk adverse they are on safety. Do you think that correlates with confidence? So like if someone is like, oh, I'm going to go all out, like risk isn't really a thing. Are they are like confident? Like how does that go together?
Well, God bless that person because I am at the other end of the spectrum of I had a lot of trauma growing up, a lot of things. So the drug of safety is so alluring to me, right? So I'm going to give hope to anyone listening who doesn't feel confident at all in whatever that next thing is. And it's a little bit like what you did, Amber, with the sweaty palms means growth instead of sweaty palms means I'm not safe. The game, and I'm going to call it a game, is what if you flipped the order? Okay, so again, normally what we want is to feel confident and then take action. Of course, so much more comfortable. So then what if the game is confidence is not a thing I feel, it's a state I achieve through committing to something, even when I don't feel confident, then developing capability or skill. That's what you talked about, like doing the thing and doing those reps. And then continuing to develop sort of mastery and, just excellence in it, then confidence is the result. It's actually not the catalyst. So we're flipping the order on purpose with ourselves. We're like, oh, it's almost like for whatever reason, I'm getting an image of a little kid's board game, like where you're moving the pieces. And it's like, oh, you don't even get to that. Instead of Candyland, it's Confidence Land. We don't get to Confidence Land until we go through the board. Like you just don't. So I think that's the trap that we get into is thinking I'm supposed to feel confident and then I know I can take action. And how do we make it safe? We say, oh yeah, that's the point. I got to spin the spinner and move my piece here and, go through, I don't know how many years since I saw Candyland board, but, and so I think the idea that, it's like, how do we make ourselves feel safe being unsafe? It's like you said, how do we get comfortable with being uncomfortable? Yeah. It's a mind bend, but to me, if I remember it, confidence comes after, not first.
And where did that ever even come from? Because as you're speaking, before you even gave the Candyland example, I always like to think like things through my kid, my son, right? Like I wouldn't ever expect my son at 15 to just be like, yeah. In fact, if he was just like blindly confident, I'd probably slap it down and be like, okay, kid, go do the work to feel confident in X, Y, and Z, right? Like, so I would never expect my son to pick up a new sport and just like walk onto the field or whatever he's doing and just be confident. It's like run the paces, go to practice, put yourself in the arenas, get the coaches, do the things. Then the confidence will come. But at 18, that just switches and we're like, now we're supposed to be confident first before we have permission to go in any room or do anything.
Yes.
I always like to think through the lens because I think our kids anchor us in like simplicity. It's like, what do we want for our kids? We love them, but then somehow we change the messaging when it's about ourselves. That's not nice to do to ourselves. Yeah.
And I love this. I have a 15-year-old son as well. So we'll have to have a whole nother sidebar on that. But it's so true. It's like and even littler kids, when they do any piece of a new skill, we're like, whoa, my God, yay, you're
Yes.
amazing. Like, what if we talk to ourselves like that? And sometimes I've had our clients in our mastermind just as an experiment. I said, no, this is going to feel so goofy. But just for the next 24 hours, every time you do something, you're going to be like, oh my gosh, you brushed your teeth so beautifully. Look at you flossing. Like, I mean, I know it's
Yes.
so ridiculous, but it just shows us how little we cheerlead ourselves or, just really acknowledge even. It's
Mhm.
not, cheerleading can sound maybe unearned. It's like acknowledging, like, what a great job that we're doing. And I love it. You're saying we're not expecting other people in our life to pick up something brand new and be a master. We would never think that. And again, we think they were delusional if they thought that was going to be the case.
Right.
And yet we sort of expect that. So I like the idea of taking confidence off the table completely and saying like the calling is the sign.
Mm.
Like the desire or the spark that's come for the whatever the thing is, that's like pre-approved, supported. If you got that call, I call it a calling, but if you got that spark of inspiration, it's because you are capable, you are worthy, you are going to be supported. And then just understanding you're going to feel confidence way down the road. Way
Yeah.
down the road.
So when you say the spark and the knowledge, like you're
Yeah.
thinking like, hey, if I wake up one day and you're like, I have a message to share with the world. I want to speak on stages. I want to, be a podcast guest. I want to be the face of my business where maybe I'm currently hiding behind my business. Like that's even just a
Mm,
shift of, I want to be forward facing in my community. I want to be forward facing
right.
in what my company can do.
Yeah.
What like how does somebody make that shift other than it's just a decision where they start showing
Right.
up?
Right. So I think it's again a lot to ask us to be like, just do it. And that's a very masculine sort of energy when we're like,
Mm,
hey, my nervous system is like deregulated around this. I'm freaking out. I'm scared. So again, I like to come at it from both angles. Yes, there's a point at which we say, look, you're not going to feel confident until you do it. I'm
yes.
sorry. I know that kind of the Navy SEALs have a phrase called embrace the suck.
Mhm.
And I just love that. It's sort of like, I'm going to have to embrace the suck a little bit and like sweat through my clothes on this one. And it's going to feel really, like you said, itchy, sweaty palms. It's just going to be what it is. But then there's another way that we can, again, use our brain and our amazing neuroplasticity, capability. And this is called resourcing. It's again, a brain science based technique, but it's a kind of cool because what we can do is think like, for whom is this thing really easy, like you said, becoming a podcast guest or whatever, speaking on that stage, being the front face of the business. Like, who would that be so easy for? And maybe a CEO comes to mind, or someone who you love their podcast and you've seen them on lots of podcasts or whatever. Everyone listening can think of that. And we can start to actually step in. You can imagine yourself like stepping into that person
Mhm.
and just merging with them. And the neurological question you can ask is, what does this person believe that lets this be so fun and so easy? And you're just going to listen. Your mind will give you something. Though they might feel like, oh, I'm really great at speaking, or people really need to hear this message,
Mhm.
or I know that what I have to share has value. Like, you'll hear something. And what you do is you resource from them. You don't try to, again, it's a way to hack your confidence. You're like, people listening might think, God, I bet Amber thinks she hosts this podcast since 2017. Like, it's easy to go on podcasts. So I'm going to resource from Amber's mindset and Amber's beliefs about herself and Amber's, confidence. Right. And I think like the trifecta of this is then being around other people who are doing it or have done it, like actually letting yourself, certainly we can watch interviews and read people's books, great. But if there's a way to be in community, and not if, because there always is, right? Who else is just, if it's, you want to be a podcast guest, getting into a group where people are podcasting all the time.
Yes.
And you're just like, oh, this is just not a big thing. It's like these people are doing it all. And there is something that happens. You will collapse time. The 10-year plan can become the 1-year plan. If you're stepping into that person you envision being, already
Mhm.
anchored in that mastery and identity, you are surrounding yourself with other people and mentors, who can show you the way, kind of, expedite things and believe in you and see the bigger vision.
Mhm.
And then it's okay. And then do the thing.
Yes. So I was referring to this earlier about our brains, this epiphany, my brain can lie to me. Well, it likes to be very creative in how it lies. So what I heard you say in my world was like, well, if it can be imaginative, why don't I pick a better story? Like I feel really great when I'm podcasting, or when I
Yeah.
do this, I feel super confident. Like they're just as much words that like as the negative ones. So choose the story that actually supports where you want to go. And so what you were doing is giving them someone like, okay, put yourself in like that person. What
Right.
do you think? They don't know. They're making assumptions. They're guessing. They're being
Yes. Yes.
creative with it. Well,
Yes.
great. Whatever comes from that is actually probably more positive than your initial chatter and thoughts that you were having about yourself. So I love that, like finding the thing.
Yes.
You're reminding me of something I did early on when I spoke. I think, well, first I want to say this. I think that so many of us forget to see somebody's entire, like you said, you've been doing this for 20 plus years, I think you said, is like,
Yeah.
what's somebody's entire journey? So when someone hears me speak and present now, where I'm not, clammy and I didn't spend a bazillion hours preparing, is that man, I ran the paces. I would speak at every luncheon, steak in mouth, like just talking to people that are just going to town on eating. And I run every whatever group that would have someone come in and speak. I spoke in my entire town before I ever started a podcast. And then I did my own podcast where that felt safe. And then I was like, hey, I bet I can do this on other people's podcasts. And it was just like this natural evolution. So, how can you see where you're at and just know that you might be in that place where you're running the paces, putting in the reps, and on the other side of it, you won't even recognize those thoughts anymore. They're not there. Um, I interrupted myself. But the other thing I was going to say is your amazing red suit is reminding me that when I first started speaking for a long time, like years, if there was any images, I was always wearing red, whether it was just red shoes, a red
Interesting.
jacket. And so when you think of like, who are you stepping into or who is that person that you see? For me, it was like about like a bold or being
Yeah.
bold. And I associated red with bold. I associated it with confidence.
Mm.
And so for me, somehow early on, I associated a color. And then when I wanted to feel that feeling, that's what I would dress in. Again, you were saying play games with your brain. I think it's our job to trick our brains because
For sure.
like if you're not going to, somebody else will. So if we can like kind of leapfrog or go around the thing that feels so hard
Yeah.
because we've tricked our brain and we're better off for it, I'm like, good, let's do
Let's
that.
go. It's
Yeah.
like, and they call it like intentional brainwashing. Like you are right. I mean, I'm all
Okay.
for it. I will purposely, again, we're actually coding is a better word because that can sound like a scary word, but we're coding, we're rewiring, we're
Mhm.
wiring again for success, for fulfilling our destiny, right? And it's so exciting. And I love that you picked a color because it represented to you that boldness, that power, that, confidence, all the things. And all of these are just mental cues, right? The subconscious responds to symbolism and repetition. And so when we want to rewire our brains for anything, we want to think about the symbols and repetition. And you did that with the red. It was like your anchor color. And it
Mhm.
just said, I'm now suited up like the way an athlete would put on a uniform or someone would, again, an astronaut would put on this. It's like, I now feel like I've stepped into the identity of a confident, powerful speaker.
Yes.
So,
I can't tell you when I stopped that.
yeah,
Somewhere along the road, like it served me. I understood what it was
yeah,
doing. And now I don't think I have barely any red in my wardrobe. But
right.
and that's awesome, right? Like that's your new normal. And there's probably other arenas that I have little things where I'm like, that's another thing actually, is that once you start building up these bank of tools that you're so kind, you're sharing all of these tools, right? Is that when you find yourself in an uncomfortable situation, your hands are clammy, the more you're practiced reaching for these tools, the gap between that really shitty feeling where your chatters in your head and you're spiraling and you're going to talk yourself out of it, I feel like that can shorten and shorten. It doesn't, in my opinion, I would love yours. It doesn't go away. And I don't think that message is shared enough is that we think like there's this like place, maybe 90, maybe you and I are going to be 90 sitting on, and we don't care about nothing. Okay, maybe she cares about nothing. But in my experience, this doesn't just go away. It's like you put yourself in a new situation. You're like, oh, that's familiar. Okay, what do? We go for the tools in the toolbox.
Completely. And that's part of embracing the fact that saying, I just have a toolbox. The way that, again, someone would build a house, they're not like, oh no, I need a hammer. Oh, it's just like, yeah, bring my tools. Cool. We need a hammer. We need a saw, whatever. And it doesn't go away because, again, our brain wiring, if it's newer, bigger, in some way more something, the parts of the brain, our amygdala, our mammalian brain, is going to fire up warning bells. And so we just want to know how to say, oh, it's okay. There's not actually a tiger running at me, or, there's not, this is just new. It doesn't mean it's bad.
Yes.
And we've got to pull those two apart. And like you said, it's just like, sweet, I just get out my toolkit because I've got it everywhere I go.
Yes. Okay, I have a question. When somebody is absolutely frozen in not being confident, frozen in fear, frozen in like the thing I'm doing or trying to do is unsafe, whether consciously or unconsciously, that's what their brain is saying.
Yeah.
We know that when we are that frozen, we're not thinking of toolboxes even there. We could be tripping on the toolbox and we don't know the toolbox is there. Do you have any advice on like literally like what's that first step to just get yourself out of frozen and not taking action?
100%. I'm going to go, this is like primal energy, because we can freeze and we can't hear the wise voice. We can't remember this podcast episode, anything. This is so bizarre. But if you lay on the ground, chest down, this could be, if you have a yard of any kind, it's awesome to do this like on earth, like on grass or something. You can do it in your home, your apartment. And what it will do is start to draw your energy out of your head, and you're going to, because that's all happening in a trauma loop, basically. And so we've got to cut the loop. And so if you just think, get on the ground, kind of the way someone's like, they're going to have a seizure, I got to get on the ground, or there's something, it's just like, and in very short amount of time, like less than a minute, you will start to come out of your head, out of that spin, and you're going to be in your body. And as soon as we're in our body, we can breathe. And as soon as we can breathe, we can tune into a different channel. And then we might think about changing the channel, as in, oh, I'm going to be okay. Or, so, and even if you can't get on the ground because it'd be weird and you're at a public place, hands just crossed here. If you're watching or listening to this, you just put like your two hands almost like butterfly wings over your heart and just breathe. Because that is also going to pull you from spin brain into heart brain.
Yes.
The heart has a brain. It's kind of awesome. There's a whole network of other communication, and you're going to get in here and it's like, okay. And then just like saying help. I'm a big fan of just offering, it's like a secular prayer, right? You don't have to be religious. It's like help, like, and then new guidance, new wisdom can come in. I'm a huge fan of modalities that work on the nervous system and the subconscious mind. That would be after, though, we get out of our head. Because again, you won't even think of that. So if anyone's done like EFT tapping, that's a great one to break out of that freeze. There's many, I'm trained in a whole bunch of things, all the things, but you can even just think about, I'm going to start tapping, around. You don't have to know the points. It's just anything that's going to break you out of that loop into your body, breath, and then new guidance can come in.
Okay. What if they are so frozen that they're not even going to tell anybody they want to write the book and speak on the stage, and that they're just, is it ask for help? Is it get a coach? Is it have peers that are supportive if you're not finding that at home? Like reaching out, getting out of just hearing your own single voice that's not serving you very well?
I think it's really crucial, right? And so, and I'm going to give two options. If you feel like you have it in you in those moments to reach out and have someone else be in your space with you, I think that's the fastest way to open up to possibility. I went through a time, I've been married 25 years. My husband is incredible. We're in it for the long haul. And there were a lot of years at the beginning of this business and the work that I do that I did not feel believed in, supported, and I didn't have a track record of it. So I kind of understand, but at the time I needed it most and felt most insecure, I didn't feel that level of, and I understand why. And I also understand it was a mirror of what I was feeling about
I was
myself. Like,
just gonna say
I'm
that.
a
It's like it could be more
huge
representative of how you felt,
I
right? Yep.
1000%. I had this incredible mentor, and anytime myself or anyone would be like, so and so doesn't believe in me, my parents, my husband, who doesn't believe in you? He
Mm,
would say, who doesn't believe in you? And I'm like, me, I don't believe in me. It's so that's why I'm saying, like, it
yes.
was all to do with that, and it still hurt, right? Because we
Mhm,
want to be seen and loved and built up. And so what I would say is, if you can, yes, a coach, a mentor, a group of some kind who sees the bigger vision for you
mhm.
and is doing those things is such, and that's, again, that's a time collapser,
Yeah.
right? It takes the 10 years to the 1 year. However, there are times that would even feel terrifying. Like,
Mm,
I would feel so, I don't want someone to see my dream or that I don't know what I'm doing. I mean, that even felt, so here's a really wild technique. Okay. So if anyone's ever seen, there's places in Italy, in Jerusalem, other places where people go and they put something on a piece of paper, like a wall, right? There's like if you've seen the movie Letters to Juliet, people go put these like love letters, on
mhm.
this wall, or there's different places where people go in the world and they secretly share something of their heart, and it could be a wish, an intention, a prayer, something like that. And so even that action will start to get your subconscious saying, "Oh wait, she means this." There's something different happening. Remember, the subconscious responds to
Mm,
repetition and imagery, symbol. And so if you, whether for someone it could be lighting a candle in a church and just saying, like, I want to write a book, or it could be going to, if you live in a place where there is such a geographic location where people go
yes.
and offer their secret dreams. Or it could be, I've heard this one, I live in a city, so it's like, if none of that's available to you, you go stand at a bus stop or near a grocery store, and just someone's walking by that you're never going to see again. And you're like, I want to write a book. They're going to think you're completely insane. But
I've
it's
never
by
heard this. Yes.
declaring it once. And I actually learned this in a very unexpected context, the bus one, because I did a lot of addiction recovery earlier in my life around food disordered eating and things like that. And if anyone's ever done like a 12-step program, right, there's steps, and you do different things in these steps. And there was this person I heard talking, and in that paradigm, there's a step 4 where you kind of write everything down that you feel like wasn't good behavior that you
Mhm.
did. And then you share that with someone else in step 5. And so this person said, sometimes people are scared, even in the context of this work, to share something. So they would say to the people they were sponsoring, hey, if there's anything you left out and you don't want to tell me, it's completely fine, but just go stand at the bus stop, and just someone go to a different part of the area you don't live. You're not going to see this person again. Just say, I whatever. And yes, you're going to look insane, but you're going to have said it. And there's a
Mm,
difference between a dream, and that, in our case, we're not talking about addiction recovery. We're talking about, we have a dream, we have a vision, and it can be that first step that actually unlocks the new identity. And I had a client do this once, because she did tell me, but she would not tell anyone else she was going to be a writer and she was working on a book. And I said, you're gonna just find someone in public and you're gonna say this to, that you'll never see. And she was like, I want to die. That is the worst,
yeah.
horrible assignment. I hate this. No. But she's like, she did it.
Yeah.
And she's like, I told this person at the grocery store that I'm writing a book. And, I was like, and did the earth open? Did it swallow you? No, we don't die, right? But it did change something in her. And she started, like, I could see her posture. It was
Yes.
something about owning it and declaring it. So don't even, if it's too scary even to hire a coach or get in a group, start with something like that.
Yeah. So I run a business planning retreat at the end of every year where my clients will plan their entire next year. And this year we did something very similar to what you were saying. I had them early in like the first day, it's over 3 days. I had them choose like what is their word or theme of the year. And then we had special candles made over the days that were, till the end. At the very end, I asked them, I gave them this piece of paper and I said, what is like, this is just for you. Like, this is a private moment. I want you to write what it is that you're letting go of to be able to step into 2026 lighter. They could write a paragraph, they could write a word, they could write a project they were letting go of. It was a belief. Most of them went really deep, and it was like a belief or a thought or something like that. And then we had a burn ceremony, and we burnt all of these, whatever they wanted to let go of. And then when they came back into the house, we had all the candles with their word or theme of the year lined up. And then ceremonially, like, they went through and everyone had a chance to light their intention. So they burnt what they were letting go of, then light their intention of what's going in. And it was like, it was way more powerful than, I mean, when I even thought of it or created, like, it was amazingly impactful. And it's because you're going deeper than just like writing in a book and making a plan and doing a schedule. Those are things that are important. But so much of this is, what are we willing to let go of to step into who we need to be to achieve those goals, to achieve that plan that we see for ourselves. So letting it go. Like, I love that. Like, leaving a note, writing it. Like, anyone can go do this right now. Like, whatever. While we were having this conversation, you're thinking, oh my gosh, I couldn't even imagine what my life or business would look like if I let go of X. Write it down and go burn it. Burn it in your fire pit right now, or your grill or something. Yeah.
And again, that's back to that symbolism, and your whole being is, they always say the nervous system is eavesdropping on every conversation and every action we take. And I just think that's such a fun, like,
that is so
quirky
fun
way to say it. But it's like, it's easy. And so the nervous system's like, oh, like, okay, she's letting that go. Like, we're going to do something different now. All right, I'm paying attention.
Because it also goes back to the choice, right? So even if, like you were saying, like verbally saying it or writing it, is that it makes it more real than it just being looped in your head over and over again. Yeah. Okay, so as you were sharing the story of the bus stop, I was thinking, oh my gosh, this might be weird. I was like, when you travel, you're never going to see them again. You sit next to somebody on like the plane and they're like, yes, what do you do? And you're like, I'm an award, like whatever. I'm a writer. I'm a coach. Whatever your thing is that you're stepping into, own it for the hour flight that you're going to be on.
Yes. The person at the breakfast, your waiter at the breakfast place at some hotel where you're not going to visit again. I mean, it lets you, and I'll share something wild. I call this in my term for this, it's called many things in different modalities, but a future pull. So you're essentially stepping in, instead of I wish or I might, you're actually stepping in and embodying the experience of having the thing now and being the thing now. And so we call them in our community a future pull. And what was so wild, once years ago, was doing this future pull with a client of mine that I was at a gathering, and just two of us kind of broke off in the corner, and I was doing it, and I was like, oh, and it was so great. Oprah called, and I went on the Oprah show, and then this other woman overheard us, and she came over and she said, oh my God, you're going to be on Oprah? She was like, what? And in that moment, it was so weird, because I immediately was, of course, going to say, oh, we were doing this thing. It's called a future poll. And I just said, yes. And she said, when? And I said, I don't know the date yet. And I tell you, 2 years later, I was on that show. I mean, I was on the last week of Oprah's show. It was so insane how it happened. It was so crazy. But I remember in that moment, something came over me, and it was like, don't break character, essentially. Like, just because I felt badly. I was like, am I lying? Am I this crazy? And I just, for some reason in that moment, it was important that I said, oh, I am. I don't know the date yet. And I certainly did not know the date, and I didn't know anyway and how that was going to happen. But it showed me something, like the power, again, of our intention and our vision, and speaking it, saying it, what you did, that ritual that you did with your, how we remember those things forever. Super powerful.
Yes. Well, I know that we went in all different directions, but this was such a great conversation. I did want to just touch a little bit more on this pendulum shift with AI and what that might impact with thought leadership, and us feeling like, do we have a place? And if we do create this book, is it going to be taken because someone's just going to load it into AI? Like, what are your thoughts on being at the forefront of thought leadership, of what is its place? Like, I kind of got some of your thoughts early on, but
Sure.
I really want to kind of dive into that.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think it's a really pivotal time in our evolution as human beings. And you and I shared a little before the show of this sort of there's a very fear-based race in my experience going on in the world right now. It's almost like you should be using AI in everything because otherwise you'll be left behind. And people think about like Blockbuster or Borders books, and you're, and also then this kind of race to make the AI like better than humans and do everything humans do. And I'm not a fan of that narrative you talked about. What story are we telling? I'm not a fan of it for a couple of reasons. And one is that whatever it's a use it or lose it situation with our imagination, our strategic thinking, our creativity. So if we delegate those kind of things like writing our own books or creating our own podcast stories or whatever it might be, we are going to atrophy very, very quickly the very abilities and muscles and faculties that we have to be innovative, be creative, be made. So I do use AI for things. I'm going to be very clear about that. I'm not anti, but I don't use it for specific tasks that involve creative and strategic thinking. I don't go there first. Now, if I want to run an idea through and say, hey, what else should I be looking at, or what gap in the marketplace hasn't been filled, and where would this great research help, all that stuff. But I don't use it for that initial creative, innovative type of thinking. One, because there's a study out of MIT where they put brain scans on people doing tasks with and without AI. And it's no surprise that your brain is completely in a dead zone when you use the AI. It's not a shock because you're not doing anything. But let's think about that over time. It's like saying I'm going to send the machine to the gym and hope my body stays healthy. It's like, it's not going to happen. So that's one piece of it. The other thing is we are very quickly, and I bet all of you listening have seen it, entering an epidemic of sameness. Because it's like we have one ghostwriter now, and it's ChatGPT or Claude or whatever, right? And the stuff all sounds a lot the same. It just does. And again, there's been a lot of great research in the last 12 months on this from Harvard and MIT and places like that. So if we want to think about thought leadership, being original, being creative, that is not going to, it can't be the first. Again, we can't delegate the whole thing. I'm not saying we can't expedite, dictate into it, have it find research. I mean, there's so many great ways to use it. But in the publishing world for now, you can't have an AI written book. Now, if you want to write a lead generation book for your business or something and pop it on Amazon, like that's one thing. But if you want to have a book that is in bookstores and, that you're going out to be like, they actually will run it through AI software. So just everyone needs to know that, right? Because everyone teaches these, I see these workshops, write your book in 10 minutes with AI. It's like, I mean, what kind of book do you want to write? You'll have no soul connection to it. You'll have no, I mean, even if you feed in your course and your podcast episodes, it's still, I wouldn't do that again as the first draft. Yes, can you expedite, have it help edit, all the things? Okay, so that's where I stand in terms of book stuff. I think that it's so important to give the world our real gift. And no, is it convenient? No. Would it be easier to watch a Netflix show and have the AI write my Substack article for? Sure. But I'm not going to do that. Now, will I dictate the article while I'm driving to pick up my son and have the AI make sure the sentences are complete? Great. Fabulous.
Yes.
Took my task from an hour to 10 minutes. Love it. But I think for all those reasons, to make sure that we are giving, because the AI can only draw from what's been created. So if we all start creating stuff that the AI creates, we're circling the drain.
Vicious circle. Yep.
It's derivative really quickly. I think that's already happening in a lot of ways. So if you're one of the few people, those of you listening here, that is willing to, yes, default all the stuff you don't need to do, but really bring your own genius to the things that are original thinking, you'll be one of the few people doing it on the planet. And everyone's going to crave it. We all know, I know when someone wrote something with AI and sends it to me, it's very clear. And I'm not interested in it. So be that, the cream will rise to the top. So that's my take on it.
Yes. Thank you so much for sharing all that. I do think that because we were just talking about confidence and the connection of that, this is like my public service announcement, is that if you're trying to do something that you are not confident in, then you're very tempted to just defer to AI. And when you're deferring to AI, it is wrong a lot, but you don't know it because you think it should be right and you should be wrong because of the chatter we tell ourselves. So be discerning when you know, are working with AI and not like you said, not defer your creativity or your knowing or what it is that you want to share with the world. It may be exactly what somebody needs to hear. And AI might tell you it's garbage. Like, are you really going to listen to AI tell you, like, that's not okay? It needs to be improved, this and that. And now it doesn't even sound like you, even if it
Correct.
started. Look, I use AI all the time too, but I use it in a way that is like, very collaborative. Like, I don't let that thing do anything on its own. In fact, sometimes I'm a bad boss to AI because I'm bossing it around so much,
Yes.
right? So it's not on autopilot. You're not behind if you're not, AI is not running your entire business, because there's this other thing too about trust, right? Like, the more
Yes.
disconnected we are, the more that people are interacting with your content or your business and it doesn't sound like you, it doesn't feel like you,
Yep.
there's going to be costs that are paid that you're not going to know directly until it's really late down the road. So
Very.
I agree with all that. Okay, awesome. So I thank you so much for being here. This was such a great and unexpected conversation. So thank you so much for reaching out to be a guest. If our listeners want to learn more about your work and how you help your clients, and how do they find out, follow you, and connect with you?
Absolutely. Well, anyone, welcome to DM me on Instagram. It's just my name, and I'll spell it because I don't do the H on Sarah. So it's just at SaraConnell. So at Sara Connell. Please DM me if you have questions about anything we talked about today or book ideas. I always want to hear them. I love that. And the new book, if you're interested in this end part of the discussion, they just put it up for pre-order already, which is so exciting. So it's called The Download, and just The Download. And you can use my name on Amazon and get the pre-order so you can be part of the solution. Really, it's meant to be an antidote to this sameness epidemic, and sort of the future, an invitation to those of us that want to be original thought leaders in this next era. So I'm excited to share that. And please do just feel free to reach out with anything.
Thank you so much for being here. Have a great day. I hope you enjoyed this conversation with Sara as much as I did. The idea that confidence isn't something you feel first and then act on, but something you build through reps, through the sweaty palms, through the doing. That is such an important reframe that I think we all need to understand or be reminded of. And if you're sitting on an idea, a message, a next step for your business that you keep talking yourself out of, I hope this conversation reminded you that the spark is the sign. You don't need to feel ready, you just need to start. I hope you loved this episode of the Small Business Straight Talk, and I sure hope that conversation that I had with Sara was incredibly valuable. But I need to be straight with you. No change, no change. Without taking action, nothing will change for you or your business. So what I would love for you to do, and after today's episode, is identify one thing you've been waiting to feel confident about before you take action. Just one. And then I want you to take the smallest possible step toward it. Not when you feel ready, not when you feel confident. I want you to take the smallest possible step towards it, even though you don't feel ready. I want you to send that email, make that call, sign up for the room you've been avoiding being in. Confidence will meet you on the other side. If you're new here, I just want to say welcome. Thank you so much for tuning in. Be sure you hit subscribe so you don't miss another episode. And if you've enjoyed today's episode, be sure to share it with a friend. It really helps the podcast grow and make an impact on business owners who really want to enjoy running their business and take back control of their time, team, business, and life. So that's my straight talk for today. Until next time, have a productive week.